Okay, my name is Linda Fleischer, and I'm chair of the Child Protection Policy Committee that was created this past year when our church council passed the policies and procedures within the Child Protection Policy. And the Child Protection Policy at Salem has three primary provisions. The first one establishes guidelines that will be followed for all activities at Salem which involve any kind of interaction between children and adults. And this means activities within the church that are operated by church members, or any groups or affiliations that use our church to conduct business on. So the church policy, the Child Protection Policy, was passed, and it included a provision for a committee that actually was then responsible for making sure that the policy itself was followed. So the committee consists of myself as chair, and then the two pastors and the chair of the congregation council, and then other members from the congregation that can make sure, again, that the policy is being followed as required. So the policy establishes guidelines that must be followed, and in addition to that, it also states that in order for adults to work with children or vulnerable adults, that they go through a process which includes a 1-hour training program that outlines the policy. They have to go through a minimum background check to make sure that there is no history or record of previous interaction or negative interaction with children, and they are also required to sign a covenant stating that they will agree to comply with the provisions of the policy. And then the third part, it just states exactly what procedures will be followed, and if there is an incident of suspected abuse, the policy specifies exactly what steps must be followed by the person that observes the abuse, and exactly how then the pastors will report it and what must be done. So anybody that gains status and goes through the approval process to become either an approved adult or an approved youth, and an approved youth is a person between the ages of 14 and 18 that are authorized to work one-on-one with children. But if any of people in those categories observe abuse, or just by being designated as an approved adult or an approved youth, they become what we refer to as a mandatory reporter. There's guidelines by law that must be followed in terms of letting authorities know, and those authorities include the Department of Social Services, which has a special office, Child Protective Services, that monitors and follows up on incidents of accused abuse. So it's important that we follow this. The purpose of the policy is to make sure that the most vulnerable members of our congregation are protected, and it also protects adults that are in the capacity of overseeing children, because unfortunately there are accusations that could be made or situations that could arise which might prove unnecessary or have problems for the adults that are involved too. So the policy not just protects our children, but it also protects adults too, and we feel that it's our goal to make Salem a safe place for all members of the congregation, especially the most vulnerable. And therefore this policy is in the process of being implemented now. We're going to be starting the training in May so that all of the adults and youth that want to be granted approved adult and approved youth status can go through the process, sign the necessary forms, and then they are authorized to work in the many areas at Salem which do involve interaction with children. And as the chair of that committee, I'm very happy to be responsible for its implementation, and I think that it's a very positive and important step for Salem to take at this time. And I also appreciate the fact that our church council put the time and effort into following up on this policy and seeing that it be enforced.